I find it fascinating how Jesus can take just about any kind of interaction and turn it into an in-depth theological conversation that changes people's lives. Jesus and his disciples were traveling from Judea in the south to Galilee in the north, and the region in between of those two places was Samaria. Now, most good Jews would completely bypass Samaria, going miles out of their way just to avoid stepping foot in the region, but not Jesus. He takes his disciples straight through. And when they come to near the town of Sychar, Jesus hangs out by the well outside town, and he sends his disciples to go find some food. And now while Jesus is just kind of hanging out there by himself, just kind of chilling around noon, a woman came up to the well to draw water. Now instantly, this sends all kinds of messages about what kind of woman she is. See, most women in the town would have come together earlier in the day when it was cooler to draw their water. And they would also help each other out and socialize for a while. But not this woman. She waited and came by herself. Jesus knew all that he needed to know about this woman. She had been passed around from man to man. She had been cycled through 5 husbands and then seemingly given up on marriage because now she was shacked up with some guy that she wasn't married to. Not exactly the kind of woman your average good guy would want to bring home to mother. Jesus knew all about her and more. He knew what kind of woman that she was. He knew how it would look for him to have a conversation with her. He should have ignored her. He should have pretended that she was invisible, just like everyone else did. He had absolutely no business interacting with her. But come on, that's not Jesus. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water." The woman said, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And the woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so I will not get thirsty, or I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming back here to draw water." Did you see the question that Jesus asked? Will you give me a drink? I really appreciate the glimpses of Jesus' humanity that we get in the Gospel of John. Sometimes we get hung up on the fact that he is the Son of God, that we forget he is also the Son of Man. He is fully God and fully human. So that means he got hungry, he got tired, angry, sad, thirsty. And he'd been traveling all day long. So he's thirsty. And here comes a woman with a rope and a bucket. And he asks her, "Will you give me a drink?" It's such a simple request, yet in those circumstances, absolutely shocking. Even she was taken aback. She was probably bracing herself to be scorned and ridiculed and attacked verbally. Because that's what everybody did to her, especially Jewish men. Have you ever prepared yourself to kind of be raked over the coals by someone? Maybe it's your parents or maybe it's someone in authority or by a boss or something. So you get yourself prepared to kind of just take a lashing verbally, but nothing ever happens. I feel like that's what the Samaritan woman did. She prepared herself for what she thought was going to happen. So she comes in defensive, and she comes in ready to argue and ready to fight, and she comes in just willing to, this is going to be so bad. This is going to be, and she goes, okay, here. And then she's shocked. She comes in guarded, defensive, skeptical, and then she becomes confused, relieved, curious. You can see these reactions taking place in the seconds after being asked a simple question: will you give me a drink? Jesus, when he asks her this, is putting himself at her mercy. It's up to her to say yes or no. Think about that. He asked, will you give me a drink? And she could have said no. Now, he probably could have told her, give me something to drink. But he didn't. He asked. He put the ball in her court, so to speak. His question required her to stop and think through the situation. Jesus never demands anything from us. He never forces us into a situation. There's always the option to say no to him. In fact, that's what plays out in the scariest scene in the Bible. In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus foretells of a time when everyone will be sorted as sheep and goats to his right and to his left. And the sheep are those who clothed him and fed him and tended to his needs and visited him. And they didn't know it was him, but whenever they did those to the least of these, they were showing hospitality to Jesus himself. On the other side, those who didn't show kindness, who couldn't be bothered to show hospitality to the least of these. Whenever they turned their backs on someone in need, they turned their backs on the Son of God. Jesus would also tell his disciples this in Matthew chapter 10. He said, anyone who welcomes me or welcomes you welcomes me. And anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous man as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. And John would tell us in his first letter that if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Or maybe the writer in Hebrews who says, do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. What's another word for hospitality? See, sometimes we think of hospitality, we think of having them into our homes. We think of being hospitable, which is hosting them somewhere, and it's usually involving some kind of food. But another word for hospitality is simply kindness, showing kindness to people who are in need. When they are in need of clothing, they were clothed. When they were in need of food, they were fed. When they were in need of visiting, they were visited. Showing kindness. This woman had no idea who was asking her for a drink of water. And Jesus stunningly reveals to her that he is in fact the Messiah. Now, this is important to note that this was the first and one of the only people to whom he openly unveils his true identity. So would she deny the Messiah a drink of water? More importantly, would she accept the living water which the Messiah is now offering to her? So often we fall into the trap of thinking that God requires big things from us. We think that we're not really good Christians unless we go on mission trips or lead Bible studies or convert our entire circle of friends or maybe even become a minister, pastor a church or preach to thousands on TV or in stadiums across the country. But see, God rarely calls people to great things. More often than not, God calls us to simply do little things with great love. Jesus is not asking this woman for anything spectacular, just something to quench his thirst. And in return, he offers her something that will quench the thirst within her, that unsatisfied desire she has within her that keeps her hostage in this lifestyle of chasing love from men. And this little action of giving a drink did not change Jesus' life, but most definitely changed hers. So, what is one way that you can show kindness this week?